I'm Father Pullman.
And I'm Father Schumacher. And
we are the Associates.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Ask the Associates. Got one for you today, Father.
Oh, good.
Was Russia actually consecrated to the Immaculate Heart?
This is an interesting thought. So first, some history. Our Lady of Fatima made a request to the three visionaries, which St. Lucia, who was the other two, died shortly after the apparitions, made known that Our Lady wanted Russia consecrated, and if it would not, then Russia's errors would be spread throughout the world.
So, and what year was this?
The year was 1917. They began in May 13th of that year, and every consecutive month she would appear on the 13th and ending with the Miracle of the Sun on October 13th. And among the things that Our Lady conveyed to them, one of them was that Russia, unless it was consecrated to her Immaculate Heart, would spread her errors throughout the world. And so generally, we just refer to this, there's a number of rotten fruits that have come from the revolution that happened in Russia that turned it into the Soviet Union for a time. We know it as communism. An atheistic form of government, militantly against the church. Not one Roman Catholic church remained open when the Soviets took over. Okay, so Pope Pius XII in 1942 made his first consecration, and he did a consecration of the entire world. Some people might wonder why he didn't just consecrate Russia. There's quite a history behind this, but when he went directly against the Nazis in Germany with an encyclical, it's the only one that was originally written in German, they actually had the crackdown and a militant kind of response to that, to where they started rounding up the Jews very aggressively. And so Pope Pius XII didn't want to provoke the Soviets, so he did a consecration of the entire world. St. Lucia was asked if that consecration was accepted by Our Lady, and we know that her answer was, in her opinion, it didn't fulfill the requirements of the consecration to the Immaculate Heart. What it did do, and St. Lucia, I believe, also conveyed this, was that Our Lady did accept the consecration, and because of it, World War II would come to an end sooner. He made another consecration in 1952. Also, no one would say it was a consecration of Russia specifically. I forget the year. I believe it was 1982 or 1983. St. John Paul II made another consecration. And he did go to great lengths to try and be faithful. He requested all of the bishops on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception of the preceding year, December 8th. He sent out a letter asking all of bishops to make the consecration with him. Fascinatingly enough, there was a very brave Czechoslovakian bishop in exile in Rome. His name was Pavel Nilika, and please excuse me if you know the native language of Czechoslovakia, and if I butchered the pronunciation. He was willing, actually, to go into the heart of the Soviet Union on that day to make the consecration on Russia's soil. Well, Monsignor Leo Masberg was the spiritual director to St. Teresa of Calcutta, and she actually made a request to this Monsignor who was going with the bishop to take with them many miraculous medals to plant so that the seeds of faith might one day bring forth the fruit of a renewal in Russia. Well, there's a fascinating operation. They could really make a movie about this that would be as intense as, I think, any thriller. This brave bishop from Czechoslovakia and this Monsignor, who was a spiritual director to St. Teresa of Calcutta, went armed basically with a mass kit, the consecration prayer hidden in a magazine called Pravda, which means truth. Little sense of humor there. And then these miraculous medals. And so they went in, and as soon as they landed in, I forget which airport, but on Russian soil, going through customs. They had this leather casing for their mass kit, and when these atheistic communist guards were going to look through it, they would simply give them a miraculous medal that was blessed, and they were so taken by it, they let them through, as if they were bribing them with something of great value, which it was, but they had little idea. And this happened, and they were just happened providentially when the bishop came into the Soviet Union to be asked if they would like to go on a tour of all of the closed churches actually in the Soviet bloc. And so they did. And once again, anytime they would take belongings, they would bribe people with these blessed miraculous medals, and they would leave them alone. So finally they got to one of these churches that was closed, forbidden from Mass, but these people were on a tour of. They offered Mass on a side altar and made the act of consecration, and there was a certain divine protection that prevented anyone from noticing them or stopping them from actually offering the Mass. And so there, on March 25th, 1982 or 1983, please forgive my lack of memory on this, they made the act of consecration that St. John Paul II made in Rome. And then they slipped on back out, and due to the change of the time zones, they actually made it back to Rome just in time for St. John Paul II's act of consecration as well. So one of the questions that's obvious about this is, why is this disputed then? I think there's kind of two obvious reasons. So St. John Paul II also did a consecration of the entire world. The other obvious point for this is, if that fulfilled the requests of Our Lady, then why is Russia still not converted? And so these are still very, very much so open questions. And so in this, I can only give you my opinion, which perhaps this might be good for you to maybe let me know your thoughts on this. I'm very reluctant to answer questions like this because, as a priest, I don't want to give you my opinion. What I want to do is give you the faith that leads to eternal life. And I don't, so when we do give our opinions, I think, Father, if you're with me on this, we don't want to sow confusion about what is our opinion and what is the faith.
Right. I think that's a good point, especially when we are, I mean, obviously we still have opinions, we're still men, but when we are in a formal teaching role, especially preaching at Mass, for example, but even here on a format like this, where people are asking us questions and we're answering them in our capacity as priests and as representatives of kind of the ecclesia docens, the teaching church, we should be very careful not to merely tell you what we think to be true, but what is certainly true. Or if we have to give you things that are not certainly true, then we need to let you know that this is a theological opinion, these are what certain scholars say, these are kind of the historical circumstances, so this seems to be the appropriate judgment, but it's not certain in that way. So it's good for us to distinguish those things, and I think, Father, you've kind of given us the historical circumstance.
Yes.
Useful for us.
Yes. And I'm willing to give you my opinion. So it seems to me that there are two possibilities. One, the consecration met Our Lady's requirements, and it is a seed planted that we're waiting to bear fruit. My opinion is actually a second possibility. I think that all these consecrations, and this is valuable for us in our own lives, those consecrations, in my opinion, which is actually pretty worthless, it's not going to lead to eternal life. I don't think they actually met the requirements, although I wanted to go into the historical background because I think it was of immense value. So Russia has indeed, in many ways, warmed up to the Christian faith. I know one Catholic journalist who has firsthand sources and an eyewitness to Vladimir Putin actually making a request for Russia to be consecrated to the Immaculate Heart. That's enormous. But the final part of this is, we will know that Russia has converted when God is officially recognized with Christ as its king. when a country converts, this is different from a majority of people being Christian. It's a public recognition of God's rights. So with this not being the case yet, in my opinion, I think there's probably consecration that needs to be done that fulfills the consecration of Russia, particularly of the Pope in union with the bishops of the world. And I could be wrong, or I could be right, but it doesn't matter. So certainly pray for the conversion of Russia, pray for the Holy Father. I think at the end of the day, that's what that comes down to. Click the logo right there to subscribe.
Thanks for watching. New episodes come out every Wednesday.